I used to identify as the LGBTQ plus community. Never really liked labels. Today, I identify as a child of God. Sorry if I get emotional. Um, it's overwhelming. God's love. I was very angry at God when my mother passed away. But I believe this is a saying of mine. For me personally, I had to lose everything to appreciate anything. Um, like I said, I was angry at God. Didn't want to hear about Christianity, and everything just it started happening. It's like a snowball effect. After Mom passed away, then me and my ex, which I was one time my whole life I was a lesbian. Um, my mother once told me, she said, I love you regardless. I don't judge you, but one day God will. Um, well, today I'm very grateful that everything happened the way it did, and I'm where I am now, and standing with that. I no longer live that lifestyle. I have been single for 6 years. I love it. I'm at peace. I've never had such peace in my life. Um, and God let me know that that was one of my biggest problems in life. Where my problems were coming from was women. Once I surrendered that lifestyle, my life just dramatically began to change. I lost my home, I lost my car, I lost my job, and I ended up homeless. Um, and that is the darkest place I've ever been in my life. My family, they wouldn't help me. It's like I had no one, and that's exactly where I needed to be for God to get my attention. I truly feel that today. Um, Otherwise, like in the past, I wouldn't have listened or just blocked him out. Um, but it got so bad where one day, I finally surrendered and I said, Lord, there was days I'd go without food, living in my car. At one point, I didn't even have a car. I was on a bicycle. Um, but it got to the point where I was going to die. Um, I ended up with pneumonia, but that's another part of my story. But I hit my knees and I said, okay, Lord, I'm willing to surrender anything and everything. Just please help me. I can't do this anymore. For me, going to the homeless shelter in Knoxville was not an option because that, that just terrified me to end up there. They called Teresa King, and she came and picked me up. And I went to Beauty for Ashes, and that's really where my walk with the Lord started. Um, I stayed there for 30 days, and I really enjoyed being there. It's an awesome program for women. I got out, and I ended up getting my own place, and it's just like the good Lord has made everything happen for me. He puts me right where I need to be because he takes care of me. There's not a doubt in my mind. He looks out for me. Sometimes, even making decisions that I'm not so good, making myself. He'll find a way to direct me where I need to be, like where I am today. Um, but sorry if I get emotional. Um, it's overwhelming. God's love that he's made me feel especially when I felt like no one else did. I was sitting on my bicycle at the end of my dad's driveway. I probably had an altercation with my stepmother. Um, and I see a law enforcement officer pulling in. I thought, oh, here we go. I figured it's going to be a bad encounter. And this man, he stepped out, and I'll never forget. He said, "Can I ask you a question?" And I said, "Sure." And he said, "Do you believe in God?" And I remember just breaking down because God was really, he was really, really working on me at that time. Um, and at the same time, the good Lord knew I needed people um, to be understanding at that time, and not to be so judgmental and so hard on me. I needed people, just to care, and because God cared. Um, and 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 God was, the answer. But at the time, I was fighting it a little bit, trying to, survive and everything. It was just so overwhelming. But when he stepped out of that cop car and asked me, "Do I believe in God?" It's like a weight was lifted off of me, because I did believe in God. Um, but I was angry at God because I felt like, at that time I felt like being gay wasn't a choice. Today I feel otherwise. I feel like it is a choice. It's a choice I make every day not to go back to that lifestyle. Um, and I feel in my heart I can never go back, because that would be taking what I give to God, taking it back from Him, and I can't do that. And I won't do that. Um, but it was like a huge weight was lifted off of me, because um, I knew then, and that was exactly what I needed to hear. I needed to hear, good things about God, and that He loved me, and that He cared about me, because my whole life I thought that um, that He didn't, because my lifestyle, like I said, I felt like it wasn't a choice at that time, and I felt like I didn't feel like it was fair that you know I felt like that I was born that way, and that God was going to judge me one day. But today I have a whole different way of looking at that. Um, I feel like it is a choice. It's a choice I made. I give that life to God, and with no regret. It's the best decision I've ever made. Not only surrender my life to Him, but surrendering that lifestyle, because that lifestyle was a big part of my problem in life. Today, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for where I am with my walk with Christ, after where I was, years ago. I'm so grateful that He loved me enough to die for me, so I can have eternal life. Um, but I'm so grateful that He loved me enough to change my outcome on this life here on earth. Um, Today, I think my true purpose is, to be able to go back, and not to go back to that lifestyle, but go to testify to the community, um, that I once lived that lifestyle, to testify to them that that you can be freed from that lifestyle. 20 something years ago, if you'd asked me, if the good Lord um, died for my sins, I wouldn't have, I would never believed it, because of a sinner like I was at the time. Um, but today, um, I do believe it. I believe He died for my sins. Because once I realized that I was living in sin, um, that was the big thing for me just to realize that my life, I was living a life of sin. Um, Once I realized it and was willing to give Him that life, to give Him my life, and to realize that He died for my sins, so that I could have eternal life. I have a life worth living today. Um, and I'm very grateful for Him, and I love telling everyone that I have encounters with what He's done for me.